The Puma Deviate Nitro 3 versus the Nike Zoom Fly 6. Which one is your better carbon plate daily trainer? Let's talk about it. Let's compare. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed, watching the content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes respectively, somewhere up here. And as you can guess, based on your preliminary knowledge of both shoes, there's going to be a lot of similarities in terms of build, purpose, potentially stack height structure as we get into it. But the principles here mainly kind of remain that overall, when I'm reviewing these things, I have more miles on the Deviate Nitro 3 than the Zoom Fly 6 at this time. So that being said, we'll start with our earlier model, which is the Deviate Nitro 3. Main things about this shoe, just in terms of specs, as we already know, is it's 39 millimeters in the heel, 29 in the forefoot, has a 10 millimeter offset, slightly higher heel feel across the shoe, with nitro foam, two pieces of it, with a carbon plate sandwiched, stacked in the shoe. That's what I meant to say, and that gives it the ride that it does. Again, we've got this kind of Puma grip signature piece that's used for our grip technology across the shoe, and we do have a pretty well fit upper running the duration of the entire shoe, as well as a gusseted tongue, a normal case of shoelaces, some heel cup reinforcements, and I would say that's the majority of what we're looking for in terms of structurally with what's going on with the Deviate Nitro 3. I think most people will agree that the Deviate Nitro 2 is probably a better built shoe. Depending on who you ask, I would probably agree with that assessment, but it's not to distract from what the Deviate Nitro 3 brings to the table in terms of a daily trainer. So that's what we got with the Deviate Nitro 3. When we get into the Nike Zoom Fly 6, here's what we got going on. Shoe is 40 millimeters in the heel, 32 in the forefoot, 8 millimeter offset, so comparatively speaking, it runs a little bit lower, just slightly, not by much, but it is enough to be a subtle difference in the case of the shoe, where we have an EVA foam and a ZoomX foam running the shoe with a carbon plate, the fly plate in this case, sandwiched in between the shoe, despite where the text is. That's EVA, ZoomX as the midsole, and that's kind of what we got going on. With the upper, compared to the Deviate Nitro 3, I think this upper is a lot tighter, less room in the toe box area overall, so it is a bit crammed. In my personal experience, that could be different for you, but that's just kind of what's going on in terms of the fit of the shoe. It does sort of run tight around the shoelace area of the shoe as well, so you do have to play around with this overall fit a little bit more than usual. The gusseted tongue is fairly flexible, has a lot of space, but with that being said, you do have to also play around to make sure that this is correct in your sort of fit when you put this shoe on. So there isn't a whole lot of heel reinforcement in terms of like a plastic plate, sort of like what the Infinity Run React Flyknit had back in the day, or what the Deviate Nitro has. Doesn't matter, it's okay. I don't think, in my opinion, that this shoe needs any sort of heel cup. I think the fit is just fine. It's got a lot of comfort in the heel, so it's overall doing just fine in that sort of case. And as we get into the rides for both shoes, now that we've kind of broken down its specs, right? 8 millimeters, 10 millimeters, you can guess by the rides. One is more designed for a form that is resembling something that needs a little bit more work. So like in the Deviate Nitro 3's case, if you have a lot of overpronation, the shoe is better built to correct that overpronation, but at the same time, based on its stack height, it does have more of that toe box to midfoot sort of strike of the shoe. So you gotta just kind of be careful of that to make sure you have more of that midfoot strike with that roll in the rocker of the shoe, which the rocker in this case is built pretty well. Same kind of deal with the Zoom Fly 6. Again, with the 8 millimeter offset, there is more an emphasis of this mid to toe foot strike that is presented with the carbon plate technology. Again, it's just, there's nothing unusual to say about that. I guess the rocker in the Deviate Nitro 3 is a lot more profound than I would say in the Zoom Fly 6, just at this time, if you were to ask me that question. So that's just something else to note. But again, that's just kind of the pieces there. In terms of carbon plates of which shoe is stiffer than the other, and we'll be very clear about this, Both shoes are quite stiff. They are daily trainers with a combination and compound of foam that is not supposed to be race day worthy, nor is it going to be priced that way because of the materials associated with it, right? I think so far from my personal experience, I think the Zoomfly 6 is slightly less stiff than the Deviate Nitro 3. But if we have to compare it from the Deviate Nitro 2 to the Zoomfly 6, I think the Nitro 2 is the least stiff of them all, but probably the most dynamically comfortable. And in terms of plates that I remember being a lot more, I guess, responsive, I think the Deviate Nitro 3 overall wins in that category. In terms of better shoes for all terrains, I think the Zoomfly 6 wins just simply based on what's going on in the outsole of the shoe. As you can see, a lot more grip patterns and just more lugs on the shoe also to be presented, so that kind of gives you a little bit more all-terrain range, whereas this shoe looks like it's built like a tire, so therefore it must be better for the road as a result. Cool, just fine. In terms of, you know, your tempo threshold, daily sort of speed workouts, both shoes I think will do just fine in that category, as they are probably, I would say, direct competitors against each other in terms of brand. So if you were coming down to brand, you would probably get a similar style run in both of your shoes, just depending on what you're looking for. But now in terms of which shoe I prefer more than the other between the two, I think just based on personal experience from I guess what I've used more often versus what I'm just still kind of kicking off with, it's hard to say 100% which one I like the best. I would just say preliminarily, and maybe we'll revisit this in the future, I like the Puma Deviate Nitro 3 a lot more. Just at this time, it was not the greatest Puma I've ever run in, but it was definitely a damn good shoe that I was running in during the summer. And with the Zoomfly 6, I still need a little bit more time to kind of break in the shoe. I'm not a fan of most of its cons, which is the tight toe box, the tightness in the shoelace area, tongue area of the shoe. The overall build of the shoe looks really sloppy to me, so there's just like aesthetic and functional pieces that I don't like to the Zoomfly. But that being said, it is a pretty darn good Zoomfly series shoe that Nike has built. It's just, again, there's a lot of things that still need a little bit of work in that case. And then, as we mentioned, and you guys have probably guessed with the Deviate Nitro 3, the Nitro 2 overall impressed people and wowed more people than what came out as the successor to that model. But that being said, there is still a lot of great pieces that handed over from the Deviate Nitro 2 that come to this shoe and still give it a great daily to speed session type of performance that you would expect from a shoe with this type of foam and carbon plate associated with it. So I think we'll leave it at that. I don't know if I have anything more else to say without going into extreme minute details, but I think we'll just leave it at that overall. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about either shoe, leave them in the comments below. If you agree or disagree with the assessment, you guys can let me know as well. But I think we'll just kind of leave it at that. So they're both pretty good for what they're supposed to be. It's just, again, as somebody who had a really good time with Puma shoes this summer and has had sort of a letdown with Nike products since about 2021, 2022, this is just kind of where I weigh the shoes right now, so that can always change, but at this time, this is where my opinion kind of sticks. So I think we'll leave it at that. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.